Morning everyone. Yeah, so you can see how cold it is. So I think it's the first video back after Christmas, so we kind of got stuck into our car, but now we need to get back into some other little bits and pieces. So just finished up a titanium exhaust, which you can just see here. So we might have a couple of tips that will go on the end, but it's just going to be dependent on the stock at the supplier. That setup is going with a big turbo kit build we did August time. The one that had the massive front mount intercooler on it that's gone through Crafted Classics for an engine build. So that'd be quite cool to see. That's going over to Singapore for a drag car. But now we're about to get stuck in to this little beauty here. So a couple of people might recognize this. So customer's called Alex. Let's try and get the Instagram tag right. So it's that.k2.mini on Instagram. Really trick car, to be fair. So I've known Alex for a while through the sort of show scene. We've already got one of our race exhaust manifolds on here. So this is an NA car, not for long, if we can convince him. He's fitted this on with his old exhaust, basically just to get the car back on the road and back over to us. And now we're gonna try and do very similar to our kind of R32-esque center exits, but we're gonna tuck it a bit higher. He's got some cutouts in the floor, which I'll show you in a minute. So effectively it's the standard system, but just modified slightly to sit higher in the car and suit his rear bumper. But for those of you that don't know the car, it's super trick. There's a lot of details that I've spotted on this just since it's been here over the last couple of days that I didn't even know existed. So fair play to Alex, and I think his dad that built the car, but fully de-seamed, even down to the seals. It's a bit dirty because it's come down the road. Front end, if I can get it to lift nicely. Oh, let's do it from the front. So hopefully you can see. Let's extend this out a bit. So not normally something that I like on these, but Alex has done such a good job that the whole front end lifts up the front. I'd show you the boot, but to be fair, it's a bit of an art to get the boot to close again, so I won't bother. But for any of you that know Alex or the car, you'll know how much he drives this thing. So I won't go through the spec because it's super weird. It's got loads of B-series stuff built in. It's got a really strange kind of crank compression, the whole lot. It's a proper little Frankenstein. So anyone that wants to know more about it, I'm sure Alex will be happy if you drop him a message, but runs on twin HS4s. Feels kind of nice. We're trying to talk him into a turbo conversion at the minute, but he wants to do something really weird and complicated, so that might take a while. The likelihood is this will go on one of our EFI packages first, just to bring a bit of drivability back. As I said, he drives it so much, it makes sense for him to be able to just get in and hit the road whenever he feels like it. But it's really cool the way this car is sort of built. I mean, I know a lot of cars, or a lot of people that have tried these flip fronts have kind of made it work, but it's not really that clean. But you know, it's got really nice retractable stays in the bottom. It's all braced up the top. One of the biggest problems people have is that the arches never fit right when they're closed. But you know, he's trimmed these really well. It's sitting in the front. Really, really nice car, and hopefully we can just sort of tick the final boxes by giving it a really sweet sounding exhaust, which I should probably show you the standard one, shouldn't I? So old school DTM, so probably every 18-year-old's favorite when we used to get minis. I had one, decided I hated it because it was too loud. This one, I believe, is a Sportex system, so it is one of the quieter setups, but you can just about see here, the light's a bit terrible, but you can see where the bumper's been cut, or say the valance has been cut around the tailpipe. So we're going to try and match that with our system, but it's going to use twin boxes. At the minute, I'll lift the car up in a sec. It's got a big resonator in the middle, which is going to go because it's too low. It's absolutely huge. I don't know where it's from. I don't know what supplier it is, but it just doesn't really fit very nicely. And the amount this car gets used, it's just getting trashed underneath. It's not the lowest Mini I've seen, but it's pretty low for a road car. It can go a little bit more, but he's basically bottomed out on the boot floor. So anyone that runs these really low will know that the top of the radius arms clatter into the bottom of the boot floor. So that's kind of where he's at the minute. And you can see by the shock mount, so he's got some space to go on the front if he wants to. But running these cars low takes a lot of messing around to get it to ride nicely, rather than just slamming it on the deck and just hoping for the best. So I'll get this car in the air. We'll have a quick look at the system that's on there at the minute. I've just taken a bit of a sound clip, so you'll see a before, and then we'll get into the build, show you what it takes, show you the little touches we're going to do on the tailpipes just to get them to sit right, and then we'll do an after and we'll see how it compares. Cool, so underneath, so at the front, it's pretty kind of standard stuff in terms of like the spec, the mods. Big sump guard, just because as I say, he runs it pretty low, and that's sensibly cut out at the front because these engines cool by the fins on the front that you can see. So if you stop a load of airflow to it with big splitters or sump guards, etc., they do run hotter. But so you can see the standard system. So it's our big primary LCB. You can't see too much from underneath, and to be fair with the twins, you can't see a huge amount up top either. But there's a lambda bung in there. That doesn't get used other than for tuning, so it's in the same place as his old one, which is probably 15 or 20 degrees further around towards the tunnel than we would normally run, so hence why it looks like it's a bit tight. And then decent sized flexi again, that was a request, so we don't normally recommend those. For a multitude of reasons that you just don't really need them on a Mini with the rubbers and things like that. And then the offending article, which is this absolutely huge centre box. Again, we're not really sure what it is, but you can see how much crap it's been picking up. Loads of dirt. And if I can get under the ramp, you can see just how low it sits. So it's by far the lowest part of the car by a good inch. So that's going to come out. We're going to put a straight centre section in, so one of our pre-bent 2-inch sections, and then you've got a Sportex back box with, and you can just about see the cutouts in the valance there. A little bit easier on this side. So we're going to try and match the fit. We're going to try and do something a bit trick with the tailpipes. So they're still going to be rolled tips, but they're going to sit slightly different just to make it look a bit cool. But from underneath, you can really see how clean this car is. You know, it's painted for a start, which is, you know, a brave move considering how much he drives it. Plenty of gold tape, so I believe that's the Funk Motorsport stuff. I think I actually supplied him with that. So if anyone needs any Funk heat protection, give me a shout. Yeah, really, really clean considering how much mileage this car does. You know, my car does a lot less mileage, but it doesn't look this good. Probably gets more abuse, but we won't talk about that. So yeah, first steps, we're going to pull this old exhaust off, take the old mounts off, see what space we've got. We'll line up one of our 2-inch link pipes in there, and we'll sort of rotate it to try and tuck it really high up into the tunnel. And then we'll start with the rear builds, which are going to be those 2 silencers just down there. Okay, so just ripped off the old setup. So stand on the floor here, a little bit manky looking, so you can see kind of how small the rear box is and how massive the centre box is. So all of that's probably going in the bin, hopefully going in the bin. I've just thrown one of our pre-made centre sections in. So it's a little bit long for this car just because the Y piece on this one we made slightly longer to match the existing setup. So it's not really an issue, we can just shorten this up. All I've done here is I've rotated it slightly different to normal. So this bend here would normally kick towards the centre of the car, but because we matched the old setup, the link pipe is already closer to the centre of the tunnel as it is. So I've basically just used the bends that are in there just to tuck it even higher into the tunnel itself. So the only thing that hangs beneath the car now is just this kind of first inch and a half or foot and a half with the flexi section. But as I said, this car looks like it's really low, but it's not the lowest by any means. It's just been built really well to a point where it looks like it's super low. So next steps, I've got some bits on the bench. So we're just going to make the Y piece into the two rear silencers, and then we'll get the rear silencers kind of hung in place. I'm hoping I can reuse the old bracketry, but these look like they're too narrow, so we'll probably end up making something else for that. And then you can probably, a little bit easier now, see the cutouts in the rear floor or in the valance. So that's what we're going to try and match up to. It's slightly closer than we want. So normally we'd come straight out the back and each tailpipe would be kind of either side of the cutout. But it's not too much of an issue to do here. So what we've got, so I've just got a load of pre-bent mandrel bends. So these are all Fabco stuff. So these are, I think they're about 70 degrees, 75. So I'm basically just going to cut them right in the middle of the bend and make 2 or make 4 equal pieces. Make 4 equal pieces, then we'll make a Y piece that goes into the rear boxes. And then once that's all set up, we'll get through, weld that all together, and then we'll get it up onto the car, see if we need to make a bracket, and then we can make up the rear tailpipes. So this one's going to get rolled tips, but at a slightly different angle. So we're going to try and mirror the DTM that was on it, but with rolled tips instead of slash cuts. So let's see how we do. So all chopped to size. We've got the very ends that we need to cut. So you can see here. So what we're going to do is just tack those together. Probably fully weld them actually, just to make it easy. Then we'll cut straight down here. So we'll stick them in the bandsaw, get them nice and straight. Join them together, weld them up, and then I'll cut the leg lengths once we've got it sat inside the silencers. Nice. All right, so all you've seen me do there is just 2 full welds. I don't know how well you'll be able to see the inside, but kind of nice and shiny. So as with everything, back purged, no sugaring on the inside. I'll put some pictures up at the end of the video and you can see it. But all I've done since then is just cut both ends. So all we're going to do is just weld those 2 pieces together. I'm going to put a swage on the end just while I'm here because it's easier to do now than when all the silencers are together. Then we'll cut the leg lengths down, drop them into the silencers, buzz them round. And then we've got a twin box system pretty much ready to go. We can drop that onto the car, work out the mounts, and then work backwards. All right, so I've got the heater on, so it's probably pretty loud, but hopefully you can still hear me. I've done a couple of little bits off camera. So just like a couple of gussets down at the bottom. That just stops the silencers from twisting apart, basically. Keeps them nice and square, so they've got a nice even gap all the way up at the minute. Merge section is all done. This will get a couple of slots cut into it afterwards. So all we're going to do now is just weld the V or the Y section into the silencers. I've already trimmed the centre pipe, so it only needed about sort of 8 to 10 inches cut off. That'll put the silencers just behind where the standard brackets are, so we can use all the standard bracketry as well, so that's quite nice. Once we get that kind of hung in position, then I'll start to look at the tailpipes and see what we can do to get them sitting nicely in the holes that are already in the car. So back underneath, so nothing too crazy since the last little bit you've seen. So just to show you the system, so you've got the Y piece on the manifold into our 2-inch centre sections, and then we've got the Y piece into the rear silencers. So you can see from underneath, they're sitting a little bit wonky at the minute, but that's just because it's basically mounted on a cable tie. So it looks like we should be able to get away with using the existing mounts. Is that a bit of a twist? It will tuck very slightly higher up the car. You can see, I mean, to be fair, that makes it look like the silencers are super low, but they're actually not. I'm probably going to put a little skid plate on the back just in case, but that'll tuck up a bit higher. And it's, if anything, it's about the same as the old one. On the back side, obviously where you tend to go over speed bumps, the arc of the wheel will get that to clear anyway. But yeah, you can see where we're at. So we're just going to make a start on the tailpipes. What we've got to do is similar to what we did with the wide piece on the entry to the silencers. We've got to do a kink in both of these sections just to get the tailpipes to sit closer together and then come through the two cutouts in the body. So a little bit of messing around. We'll probably do that on the time lapse because it won't be too interesting for me to talk to. But we'll see you once we've got the tailpipes all sorted. Morning, another day in paradise. So typically I did the standard YouTube thing where I finished a load of work on the car without filming anything. I got pretty stuck into the tailpipe section late the other night. Stuck a time lapse on, realised that I wasn't in the picture half the time because the camera was by the door and I was all the way at the other end in the fab bay. So the time lapse I did shoot, you see my back for like 2 seconds every 30, 40 seconds. So that's pretty pointless. But I'll quickly show you around the back end. So we've kind of mirrored what was there just with the rolled tips. So it's got a small 15-degree kick on it. So basically the same as what we do with our normal like single tip center exits. And more similar to like the traditional twin exit single box systems that you see from various other competitors. 2 big boxes underneath. Now I've already fired this up and sent a video over to Alex, and it sounds awesome. So I'll do a clip shortly, which will be basically the same as what you saw at the beginning of the video. So I start to sort of a before and after, but you can see how the kink section just runs right up close into the tunnel. And then we've got a really nice Y piece into the 2 silencers that are a bit dirty. I'll give them a clean. We managed to use the existing brackets, so that's nice. And then you can just see what we've had to do here where it's kicked back in. So normally this would be what we sort of call our Miglia setup. Normally this tailpipes would come straight out the back with a 15-degree kick and they'd sit further out. Obviously we don't have a bumper on this car, so sticking the standard length would just look a bit silly. We've lifted the tailpipes up slightly so you can see how they fit nicely through the cutouts that are there. Nice and central, nice and level. And then from the side, you can see it sort of sits kind of level with the bottom of the boot lid. Now the big thing with the DTMs, as I've just done and kicked myself in the shin, is these are super sharp. So the fact that Alex doesn't have a bumper on this car just means whenever you walk around the back, you end up getting a bit closer and you do just take chunks out of your shins with those tailpipes. Half the reason he wanted the rolled tips, we were going to try and do something a bit fancy where we had an upswept tailpipe but with a level tip, and it just looked a bit funny from the back when I tried to do it. So Alex gave me a bit of artistic freedom, so thank you for that, mate, and basically just said do whatever you want. So we've gone a more standard route, but might just be me, but I think that looks pretty cool. So I'm going to stick you on a tripod off into the corner and then I'll fire it up in the workshop, same as we did with the before video, and you can have a listen and see what it's like.